Looks to come inside and find one a goal and find the back of the net for Perth.
And the Azzurri have come back from 2 goals down to tie it up.
Cue the celebrations for the Azzurri.
Yeah, welcome to the Perth Azzurri podcast, coming to you from the Perth San Siro, of course now known as Levita Homes Stadium at Dorrien Gardens. Great to have the support of Levita Homes, as well as the support of Stanford Capital Australia, and of course our fellow digital partners over there at the Thai Orchid in South Perth. The July edition of the podcast, well, a little bit later on we're going to be catching up with maybe the godfather of the Perth Azzurri Football Club, Mr. Gary Marocchi. He's fresh back off the plane to the World Cup, and I thought a little bit later on we might just explore the connection between the Socceroos and our national teams to the mighty Perth Azzurri. We've produced plenty of players over the years, both on the men's and women's side, and I thought we'd just have a bit of a chat with Gary, and we'll catch up with him in just a couple of minutes. A big round of senior football, particularly a 2-2 result for the Azzurri men on the weekend against Dianella, maybe falling a little bit short. Really needed a win in that one, didn't we? And we're looking forward to seeing how they maybe look to recover this weekend, a bye round for our Azzurri men. So we're looking forward to seeing everyone back and refreshed in a week or two. And we're looking forward to a big Friday night blockbuster in their next fixture against the Western Knights. For our Azzurri women, wowee, they are flying at the moment, at the top of the stack of the NPLW women's competition. They currently lead the standings by a massive 9 points, which is absolutely fantastic. And look, we really need to keep everyone pushing all the way to the finishing line to make sure that we can go for an historic back-to-back championship winning season for our Azzurri women. So, look, they'll be the standalone match this weekend. If you want to get your football fix, make sure you head down to Levita Home Stadium at Dorrien Gardens, and you can get behind both our 21s and our senior women this coming Saturday. So check your local guides, as they say, check the social media, and you'll be able to catch up on game times with that one, particularly with our men having a week off. There's no excuse not to get around our Azzurri women, and another big win as they take on UWA, hopefully this coming weekend. As mentioned, they do lead the top. It is for our Perth Azzurri women. They are on 36 points. Fremantle City on 27. Balcatta on 26. Down to Perth Red Star on 19. The Hyundai NTC Football West Academy. Subiaco, Sorrento, and UWA Netherlands. As far as our Azzurri men, well, they're sitting in a more comfortable position than maybe we've seen in a couple of seasons. They're doing very well, just 4 points off top, with Bayswater City leading the way there over Perth Red Star, Olympic Kingsway, to Azzurri, to Fremantle City, to Stirling Macedonia, Western Knights, Dianella, Sorrento, Armidale, Perth Glory, and Balcatta Etna. Obviously looking to get a bit of a wriggle on if they are to avoid the dreaded drop to State League Division 1. A few other things getting around before we have a chat with Gary Marocchi. By the time you listen to this, it might be the last few hours of your chance, particularly for our Azzurri juniors, to be part of the junior parade at the Milano Derby, all happening on the 5th of August. Of course, the big Italian teams coming out here. You can be part of the junior parade, get to walk out onto the pitch, where some of the Italian heroes and Milan heroes will be there. Kickoff for that one is at 7 p.m, but you will need to be there a lot earlier to make sure that you can be a part of that prior to kickoff. So check the social media. Make sure you check out the latest club newsletter, and you can get a little bit more information about that. Also, while we've got you here, our skills acquisition program term 3 registrations are now open. If you want to take your game to the next level, Azzurri juniors, make sure you get around this SAP program. It will kick off on the 21st of July, run all the way through to the 22nd of September. It's held down there at Forest Park, which you all are very, very familiar with. There is a register link on the social media as well as our club newsletter. Otherwise, you can email TAS at pscfootballoperations@perthsc.com.au, and TAS can give you a little bit more information about that. We've also got our quiz night coming up. Look out for details around that, and I'm sure you'll see that over the next couple of weeks. And there's a few other things going on, so make sure you check out the latest edition of the Perth Azzurri Club newsletter that comes out. Also, a big thanks to our major sponsors at Finney, at Levita Homes, at Trio, Liberties Insurance, Retrovision Commercial, Decmo, and of course Ideal Electrics and VCM Coffee and Machines, who of course do a fantastic job at sponsoring our Crossbar Challenge for each and every home game for our Azzurri men's sides. Right, with that all said and done, I've got all the housekeeping out of the way. Let's take a very, very quick break. On the other side of this, Gary Marocchi to join us. Welcome back to the Perth Azzurri podcast. It's an absolute pleasure to be joined as we, I guess, bask in some of the glory of another World Cup appearance for Australia, and I guess celebrate also the connection between the Perth Azzurri Football Club and, of course, our national team, one that's obviously we've produced plenty over the years, none other than this next gentleman, Mr. Gary Marocchi, is with us. 13 caps, 2 as captain. Gary, thanks for giving us a bit of time.
No problem at all, Blayne. Pleasure to be here.
Mate, you're just, I guess, recently back off the plane from the USA. There's a lot of fallout. We just had a bit of a chat off air, but, mate, what did you make of it all?
Well, I actually thought, the country did themselves proud, but there's obviously a lot of people that were very critical of some of the decisions that the coach made. But end of the day, he's got to make those decisions. And, I thought that, for us to beat Turkey 2-0, that was, Turkey's ranked pretty highly in the world, and we pulled off an excellent result on that game. And I thought against America, we were hard done by a couple of refereeing decisions, and that's happened throughout the tournament. But I didn't think America was that much better than us, and you only have to see the replays of one of the goal, especially the first goal, how that was not given offside. It still amazes me, but we had some opportunities that we should have got a penalty in that game that we didn't. So that's the luck of the draw. You just got to move on. But they all acquitted themselves very well. And if you have a look at the setup, we've got some very highly talented, young 21, 22 to 24 bracket that for the next period, it's going to do Australia, a fantastic service. And, I look forward to the next World Cup in Europe, in, Spain, Portugal and Morocco. Yeah. That, we could do something, and hopefully progress further than what we did this year.
It is an exciting time, and it doesn't feel like we've had this kind of buzz. It was almost, if you reverse it back to 12, 18 months ago, it's if we are going to qualify at least automatically. And Tony Popovic came in and despite all the heat that he's copping at the moment, I think we have to remember that he went through qualification with an unblemished record to get us there in the first place. And once you get there, it's you just kind of give it everything you can. As someone who's been, I guess, in maybe not at that particular level, but in the coaching box, coming under that kind of fire and making those kind of decisions, did you have a little bit more empathy for Tony, do you feel?
I just feel for him because at the end of the day, he's the one that's got to make the decisions, and he's always got valid reasons why he's made those decisions. And sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. But I feel very disappointed in some of these highly credentialed Australian ex-internationals that have really been very critical of the coach. Because he got a 4-year extension prior to the World Cup. And, he's done us proud. He actually, we got to the World Cup. We didn't lose a game in qualification. And, give him credit. We've got some young players. The next, we could be developing another golden generation that we had in the past. And let's hope that all those players, are healthy. And I reckon we'll do a lot better in 4 years' time.
I guess some of the criticism has come with Popovic's known defensive kind of style. He likes to be able to shore up the back and ensure that you can go on that counter-attack type of game. But many feel that it's not quite in line with maybe the type of players that we have got at the moment. I mean, it's not like club level where you can get rid of players and get a new bloke in. you've actually set up around the players that you've got available to you. So what's...
well, that's what, I mean, you look at Irukunda, you look at Toure, they're all attacking-minded players.
Yep.
And, when you start putting the handbrake on them, it maybe changes the course of the game.
Sure.
And I think, I look at the days of the glory. We were an attacking team in the early years, and, we lost games, but we certainly won quite a few games. And I think we've got to develop that attacking prowess if we want to go a little bit further in the future.
We love to talk about a golden generation, Gary, and we look at some of the names you mentioned there, your Nestor Kundas, your Cristian Volpato, who we'll talk about in a second, because that's an interesting story. We've got young Lucas Harrington. We've got a bloke who we like to claim here, Ale Chikati.
Well, we do. He actually is a kangaroo because he's been here since he was 2 years old. So,
no, absolutely. But do you feel that this could be the verge of another quote unquote golden generation?
I think so. When you look at a player like Lucas Harrington, 18 years of age, he never looked out of place.
Yeah.
And and for him to take the penalty, okay, everyone's saying that Tony Popovic shouldn't have let him take a penalty, but he put his hand up, and I don't think he's been kind of disappointed that he missed. I reckon he's just realises it's part of the game, and he's going to move on, and he'll probably take another one. You only have to look at Lionel Messi. Yep. How many World Cup penalties has he missed? Yep. Quite a few. Yep. But he still puts his hand up. There's some I keep saying there's some players who always put the hand up for penalties, and there are other players that go and hide in the corner.
We've got an interesting time at the moment because we do have plenty of hype around these young players that have been put in the shop front window, so to speak. We talk about Harrington, and I think I've read the other day that there was something like 13 clubs that are looking at him at the moment. Nestor Kunda's getting some interest. Ale Chikati's getting some interest. We've also got an Asian Cup on the horizon as well, just 6 months away until the 2027 Asian Cup in January. So, I mean, Gary, what is how do you sum up what the next few months might look like as far as getting these guys into these new clubs, ensuring they are getting the time on the field, but I guess ultimately gearing up for that Asian Cup?
They deserve, if say they get a very high profile move, they deserve it because they've actually played.
Yep.
Volpato, I mean, we mentioned earlier, he came out of left field, but he was a player that could actually take players on and beat them individually, which we don't normally in Australia. We don't seem to produce that type of player. But I was highly impressed with his when he came on in that the first game that he played. He did a lot of damage, and and then it showed in the other ensuing games. And I just hope that he continues to improve because we need that attacking type player in our, because we've got to create more chances.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about Volpato, that decision ultimately to choose the Socceroos over Italy despite playing at youth level for Italy. Gary, you've got some pretty strong Italian roots yourself, and you ended up playing for Australia. So I wonder if you can have a bit of empathy for where Cristian might be at the moment.
Well, I actually thought that it might have been difficult for him because you got to remember the dressing room. There's not just one. There's 27 players in the dressing room. They go in ready, for a World Cup preparation, and there's one player that for 15, 16 years has said he wanted to play for Italy. And then at the last minute, he had, obviously Italy didn't qualify for the World Cup. At the last minute, he decides to come and play for Australia. So that could have been, negativity in the dressing room with some of the players thinking, oh, now you want to play for our country.
Well, the interesting one there is Martin Boyle because he's probably the one that misses out because Cristian Volpato decides to...
And there were a lot of guys within the current team that were on Martin Boyle's side. I mean, but look, that's football.
Yep.
But he's gone on with it, and he's now clearly shown that he's going to be a Socceroo forever.
Yeah, so, no, I think good luck to him. I was pretty impressed with the way that he went about things. Another guy who we were pretty impressed with was Alessandro Cecchati. A brilliant story, Gary. Of course, as I said earlier, we do claim him as one of our own. It was great to see Gianfranco over there to see his boy on the world stage. But what a story! Not long ago, recovering from an ACL injury, coming back into it. It's wonderful to watch.
Look, It's amazing. I can recall the days when Gianfranco first arrived in the country, and he was playing at Perth Glory, and then he'd come and watch Perth Azzurri because Gianfranco was fairly close with an ex-past president of the club, Joe Italiano, and he brought him along. And I can recall Ali running around as a 2-year-old with his Italian accent, but it didn't take long for him to lose it and become an Aussie. So, when your kids are that age, they want to play with all the other kids, and you certainly learn the lingo very quickly if you don't understand what the others are saying.
Absolutely.
But here's a fact. Look, for me, that's fantastic for the family, and to see your son play. And I saw Gianfranco at all the games, and his wife, Alenia. That was something out of this world. To see your own son, was it 12 months after he had that knee?
Yeah, 18 months roughly. Yeah,
to recover from a serious knee injury and be playing at the highest level in the game, that was fantastic. And you got to give full credit to the boy because he's obviously worked very hard with his club, doctors and physiotherapies. And good luck to him, and let's hope that he gets that. Well, I think Perth Soccer Club would be very happy if he got a 30 or 40 million pound move somewhere in the off season.
Well, let's not rule it out. We'll keep a close eye on that one, Gary. Looking at some of the names, obviously, he is their latest Socceroo to come through the Azzurri system and go on to play for Australia. But some fantastic names alongside yourself: Dunn, Murphy, Adair, Batonia, Julbic, Carboni, Coyne. I mean, there's
quite a few, and obviously there was a higher proportion in the earlier days because it's getting a lot more difficult because most of the young kids that are talented that are at Perth end up filtering to Perth Glory, and then obviously they may move to a higher level. And look, it's fantastic that the club's got that reputation that it has produced quite a few Socceroos, and let's hope that we can produce a few more
Absolutely. As well as Matildas. I mean, I think we've had the likes of, according to my record, Sharon Maddlejan, Tracy Wheeler, Danielle Brogan, Tal Carr. So we've had quite a few. And then we've got others that have gone on to play and represent Australia at youth level as well. So, I mean, how well do you feel we're set up to keep producing these national team players?
Well, I think I would like to see the system change a little bit more, where we go back to the old model of the Australian Institute of Sport.
Sure.
Because that's where the first golden generation began. And I think having maybe a squad of 30 players in a centralised environment is better for the game than having every state have their own sports institute, because it's not working the same way as what the Institute of Sport worked from in Canberra. And I would see it as a prime mover that we need to do that, because either that or the state institutes become full-time like the AIS, but money is required to do that. So I would have thought it would be better to have maybe 2 squads at the institute, and you'll see that the game will definitely go to a higher level here.
Just going back a little bit more on your experiences, Gary, in the green and gold. I mean, the late 70s, early 80s was a super different time to what we have now, and a super different setup. But take us in behind some of those scenes and some of the, we're just talking a little bit off air, that those particular games that you captained, you actually had separate lineups.
We had it was a 3-game series against Greece.
Sure.
And there was a game in Adelaide, Melbourne and Sydney. And in the early years, Soccer Australia sometimes used to be very concerned about costs of travel and all that. So 2 squads were picked where players played in Adelaide and Melbourne, and some players played Melbourne and Sydney. And obviously I was playing in Adelaide at the time, and I played in the 2 Adelaide games. And, they were fantastic internationals against Greece. And, Greece had some very good players, and they were very well. But nowadays, and you've got to remember this as well, we weren't full-time pros at that time. We all had day jobs, and, it's so much different now where players can concentrate on playing football, and that's all they do. Sometimes it may be difficult during the day. You got to find other things to keep yourself occupied, and some guys, do some private studies and things like that keeps them busy. I just don't know how I would have survived just playing soccer with nothing else to do
Yeah.
during the day.
Yep.
Because I'd left Perth, went on my own to Adelaide. So what do you do during the day?
Yeah.
You can only train 3 or 4 hours in a day, and
Yep.
then you've got the 20 hours left
That's
of the
right.
day
Yep.
to work out what to do.
Yeah, pretty dangerous to have all that spare time. Gary, take us behind the scenes into the locker room, some of those characters that you were knocking around with for the Socceroos.
Well, I have to give you one at club level. The best was Dixie Deans.
Yeah.
And he's obviously, a very well-known Scotsman that played for Celtic in the European
Yep.
Cup, and 5'8". What a joker he was! He'd been recruited to Adelaide City, and one day, and we had a Polish coach, and Edmund Kreft, who's unfortunately he's passed away. But Dixie was a prankster. One day we had a very important game in the National Soccer League at the time, and all the players were in the room. The coach walks in. Dixie Deans has got his arm in a brace. And if you had a look on when the coach saw Dixie's arm in a brace, the coach nearly had a fit. And he's got these very strong veins in his neck. And he said, "Dixie, what's happened?" And then Dixie took the bloody thing off, because he was a prankster, and you had to be very careful, watch out when he's around. But there's been some there's other characters in the game, but he would have been the best in my opinion. And but the Socceroos, most of them were there to get on with doing their job and trying to, because remember, you weren't full time, so you didn't really see the players on a regular basis. There'd be a camp, you go to the camp, then you go back home. Whereas now they come in, they have training camps for 3 weeks, and some of them were in the American camp for a month before the World Cup. So it's totally changed, but it doesn't mean there's nothing wrong with it. It's more professional now, and that's what you've got to expect. And then by being more professional, it costs a hell of a lot more money. So the game has to provide that money, otherwise you're going to fall behind. You have a look at the Asian countries that are developing their youth level with a lot of funding. We need to do the same, because we could fall behind. You got Vietnam, you got Thailand, you got they're the two that are really improving. Okay, China, Japan, Korea, they're already there, but some of those other smaller nations are going to be very strong come the next World Cup.
No, absolutely, and as I said, Asian Cup to come as well. So it is an area to watch. Gary, what was paint us a picture about? Obviously, we're coming off the back of 5-6 World Cups on the roll. By the time that you'd played for Australia, we'd only made the one in 74. What was the landscape like as far as Australia looking towards World Cups at that stage?
Well, there wasn't really a lot talk about it, but in the post-74 era, there was a lot of instability, because the coach, Brian Green was appointed coach, and that was when there was a series against Russia, and we had a camp here for 2 weeks in Perth, played Russia at Perry Lakes. Then the group went to Adelaide, then it went to Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane. But not all the same players went to all the venues. So once the first 2 games were played, some of the Perth and Adelaide guys dropped off. But it was, that was the era when Brian Green got replaced, because he got caught for shoplifting in Western Australia, and that made the news. And that was a bad time where there was a few coaching changes. Jimmy Shoulder then came in. There was an unsuccessful World Cup qualification period, so then a new coach came in as well. Rudy Gutendorf came in, so there was a lot of instability at that time. And then I think Frank Arrock came in after that era, and Frank had some very good results. I think that there was a game played in. Did Australia play Scotland? I think and did quite well. And but same old story. We're not full time.
Was he coach when Australia beat Argentina in the bicentenary?
That's when was Eddie Thompson.
Eddie Thompson. Sorry,
you
are right.
Eddie Thompson.
Right,
But at that time, we were still amateur. Classified as amateurs, because everyone had day jobs. And the sooner we were able to get to professional level, the team, has improved immensely. And
Yeah.
you haven't got to worry about putting food on the table because you've got an income.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, recently, Gary, just a little bit more into the present. I mean, coming off the back of not only the 2026 World Cup, but we can go to the 2023 Women's World Cup. We've just had the Women's Asian Cup. Are we making the most out of these opportunities as a game to ensure that we can ride on the coattails and get more funding and get more people involved and get more interest? I mean, we've just had record viewership for this edition of the World Cup, but I mean, that's fine. But once the TVs are all packed away and the big screens all get switched off, where do we find the game?
I totally agree with you, Blayne. The Women's World Cup that was held in Australia, that had massive numbers.
Yep.
Channel 7 made heaps.
Yep.
As soon as the Women's World Cup was completed, Channel 7 walked away. Now, I blame Football Australia for that, because Football Australia shouldn't be giving the rights to coverage to a station that's not going to continue to support the game. And we need TV coverage to get big sponsors, because if the big sponsors aren't getting shown on TV, they're not going to come to you. I just hope that they do a deal with it's got to be a long-term deal with one of the TV companies, that all the games are televised locally. If they play overseas, it's televised back into Australia, because the game's got to grow and it needs commercials. If we don't get commercial sponsorship, the game's going to be in a little bit of trouble, because all the other countries are spending a lot more money than what we are.
Bit of work to do for Football Australia and the state federations, you feel, over the next little while. Just back home to the Azzurri, mate. Where do you see the side at the moment? We can start with the men's team, who I guess clipping away at the heels of the big boys.
They've seriously improved this year. Yeah. And we've got to give them credit for that. I was at the game on Friday, and it was freezing cold. It's the worst ground I've ever seen. Don't ask me how you're allowed to play football on that ground, but we came out of we needed to get a win. If we had got a win, we're 2 points off the top. So we're still in a very good, good space. And let's hope that the boys have got a rest this weekend. Let's hope that we can get all our good players back together. You got to have you noticed that since Peter Jacobs has been back, he's already scored 10 goals. So it's good to see him back, and he's a very good player. Gordon Perkins is doing well up front. We're scoring plenty of goals, but we seem to be conceding quite a few. So let's hope we can shore up the back line.
And the Azzurri women are flying, Gary. I mean, they're on track for a back-to-back as well.
I was at the game on Sunday at Red Star, and I think the scoreline was only 1-0, but they really dominated the game, and I'll be come and watch them on the weekend here, because no senior men aren't playing, and I think the girls are playing UWA at 5 o'clock on Saturday. So
5:30 kickoff.
So it should be a good game, and I've had a look at it. We're 8 or 9 points clear, 7 games to go. So that would mean the team that's below us has to win every game, and we've got to lose 4 games. I can't see that happening.
I
don't want to put a mocker on the
I'm
field.
exactly the same. I've been thinking about a bit of an invincible season. Wouldn't that be absolutely fantastic?
But they're actually playing very well as a team. And that's what, good credit to Tom Glovovich, and they're going really well. And it's good that hopefully we can go back to back.
No, brilliant times. And very much looking forward to that. Gary, thanks very much for giving us a few minutes, mate.
No problem at all, Blayne.
Massive thank you to Mr. Gary Marocchi for joining us. Some fantastic insights, some fantastic stories, of course, with Gary captaining the Socceroos on 2 occasions, 13 caps, and a wonderful contributor, obviously, to the Perth Azzurri Football Club. Right, looking ahead to the weekend, as mentioned, just to recap, no men's game this weekend, senior men, with a week off for a general bye. Get around the women's team. That is all happening on Saturday afternoon. 21s will be kicking off at 3:30 in the afternoon. Our senior women will be kicking off at 5:30. So looking forward to seeing everyone down at the ground for that. Also, just to quickly wrap up, a big congratulations to our under-16 JDL boys and our under-16 JDL girls who finished on top of their respective leagues. There will, of course, be the redraw this weekend, so looking forward to seeing how that all eventuates. And big congratulations there to everyone involved in our junior program. Right, enjoy your football on the weekend, and come on, the Azzurri.